Welcome back. You're still watching The Agenda. Now, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called on the international community to provide more aid to Mozambique. Two cyclones spurred by climate change killed hundreds and brought widespread destruction earlier this year.
Speaking to reporters after meeting Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi in the capital Maputo, Guterres said the cyclones were a consequence of climate change, a phenomenon Mozambique is on the front line of, but does not contribute to.
Mozambique has a moral authority here because it is now clear that these natural disasters, which happen more often, more intensively and causing greater devastation, have a lot to do with climate change. Despite that, Mozambique almost does not contribute to global warming, but it is at the forefront of the victims of this global warming. This gives it the right to demand from the international community strong solidarity and strong support, both in the response to the dramas created by the storms that plague the country and in preparing the country for the reconstruction and preparation for future situations.
Cyclone Idai and Cyclone Kenneth struck just 6 weeks apart, flattened cities and villages, and in the case of Idai, which crashed into Mozambique's central region in March, prompted devastating floods in one of the worst weather-related disasters to hit the southern hemisphere.
The United Nations agencies consider Mozambique an absolute priority, mobilizing the best they had to be with the Mozambican people and contribute to what was a very effective mobilization of the government and an extraordinary courage of its people, an extraordinary response.
An emergency UN appeal for Mozambique following Idai received less than half of the funds requested, while donors at a pledging conference in the cyclone-hit port city of Beira again raised less than half of the money Mozambique says is required.
It is clear that more will be needed, more aid and more support from the international community in Mozambique in order to respond effectively, and not just more support, but the swift implementation of that promised support. That is another crucial issue in regard to the solidarity of the international community.
Idai, one of the worst storms on record to hit Mozambique, pummeled the city of Beira before moving inland, killing a total of 1,000 people across Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi.